Hey everyone, welcome to our latest episode of the Unlocking Doors podcast. I am here with Michelle Castle. My name's Cory Meals, and today we are going to talk about home equity loans. Michelle,
Yeah.
the last 2 years we have seen homeowners realize a bunch of appreciation in this market here in North Texas. They're
Mm-hmm.
sitting on a ton of equity.
Mm-hmm.
They're also sitting on a ton of debt.
Mm-hmm.
What are you seeing whenever they come to you, and what is your advice on all this?
Desperation,
Desperation.
really. Yeah. Now, let's talk about debt right now. Things have become more expensive. Just living has become more expensive. So if you're a family and you've got kids and they've got wants and needs, the credit cards come out a lot lately. And then, of course, um, just everything in general has become more expensive. So even if it weren't for the wants and needs, there's been, emergencies. People savings accounts are depleted. And so when the emergencies happen, what happens? You charge it. And, credit cards right now, gosh, what are they? 28 to 30% in interest. So when you own a home, you've got equity. The problem has been that if you've had your home for several years, you probably refinanced it a year or two ago and you have a low rate, or you bought it when rates were low. Either way, you've got equity, you've got a low interest rate, but you got debt. So
Yep.
what do you do?
Right. It's a great question.
It's a great question. And the sad reality is whenever you have a lot of debt, what else goes down? Interest goes up, your cash flow goes down, but so does your credit score. So what we see happen too often is people wait too late to ask for help. And gosh, if there was any message out there, there's no conversation that you can have whenever it comes to finances and credit and real estate that you should. It's never too early to ask questions, do your research, right?
Right.
You may not be ready to make a decision, but ask questions and find out what your options are. So there's a home equity line of credit. Other states besides Texas, home equity lines of credit are super simple to access. The lines of credit using the equity of your home in Texas is a little more difficult, but not impossible. And on a line of credit, it's like, okay, I'm going to borrow $40,000 against my equity and I'm going to use it however I wish. And you literally, it's a line of credit. You can, use all $40,000 of it, or you could use $20,000 of it. Whatever it is that you're using, you pay interest on that amount. Right? But there's no fixed payment because there's no fixed balance because it's ebbing and flowing. And typically in Texas, a line of credit is going to be a second lien, which is a great option for someone who has a great rate on a first lien. Right. So you get to leave your first lien rate like it is and then borrow the money on a second lien HELOC. HELOC, home equity line of credit.
Right.
Now, there's also a HE loan, which is something we offer. We don't offer the line of credit because of the rules that are tied to that. And it's more difficult in Texas. But with a HE loan, we will do, and that's a fixed. It's a fixed rate mortgage, second lien. So we're still leaving your first lien alone.
Do y'all have to have the first position to give that second lien?
No, but we prefer.
I would too.
Yeah. We would prefer. So you can do the home equity loan up to, you can't borrow in Texas more than 80% of your home's appraised value.
Right.
So whatever equity you have, we can loan up to 80% minus your first lien.
Right.
So that's what you have left on a HE loan. So that's another good option too. And what's great about that is the rates are better because it's a fixed rate. It's a fixed loan. You know what your payments are going to be.
Right.
So, again, it's an option to pay off some of this debt. It's an option to do some of the home repairs that you've been needing to make.
Yeah.
Or the maintenance things that have been put off.
Or we're getting, wrapping things up with the holidays, and maybe you went way over budget on Christmas shopping, and that's stacked on top of other things that you've already, whenever I think about where this makes sense is for somebody who, like you said, has quite a bit of consumer debt
Mm-hmm.
and they're not chipping away at the actual principal balance, they're
Mm-hmm.
only making those interest payments, which
Mm-hmm.
means it's just, honestly, it's probably getting worse and worse each month
Mm-hmm.
with late fees or
Mm-hmm.
penalties, stuff like that. So
Mm-hmm.
where this really helps you get ahead is if you talk to Michelle and she uses her, I always forget the name of the software,
Mortgage coach.
the Mortgage Coach software.
Mm-hmm.
You can find out at what point it makes sense to, what point does it make sense for us to refinance or not,
Mm-hmm.
or take out a second line of
Take a second
equity.
lien.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
second
Equity
lien.
loan.
At what point does it make sense to do that versus, just paying off the 30% interest every
Mm-hmm.
month?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a breaking point to where it does make
Mm-hmm.
sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, one of the things that I've had clients appreciate about working with you is it's not just a, hey, here's your loan. It's a, here's how you kind of got into this mess.
Mm-hmm.
Here's how you can avoid it next time.
Mm-hmm.
Here's how we can help you stop the bleeding with all this interest over here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really just coming up with a strategy, which I think is just so important in realizing how you got where you're at and how you can get back on the right track
Mm-hmm.
and tap into your home's equity to do that, if it makes sense.
Right. And that's a conversation I truly am passionate about because I've done it to myself. I mean, I've speculated the market. I have gotten in over my head before, and I had to work myself out of it. And so I know how, I just know all the emotions that are tied with that. I mean, the guilt, the shame, the frustration, the overwhelm, all of that. And so I really like to give people hope
Mm-hmm.
that they can get out of the financial trap that they're in.
Mm-hmm.
And so, one of my favorite conversations, if someone will come to me with all of their debt and all of the terms of their debt, I mean, like, let's look at the entire financial picture, and I'll just get a blank piece of paper out and figure out what can we do to get out of this financial jam. Sometimes it's just a commitment to make the payments and accelerate making those payments to get out of debt.
Right.
Sometimes the debt, like you said, I mean, when the interest is 30% and you can't even make the payment and you're just touching the interest, we need to look at some other options.
Right.
So, just having that conversation and just being willing to be vulnerable to really look at your personal finances and really figure out what can I do to get out of this situation.
And it's a scary thing.
Yeah.
It's like you said, it's almost one of those things where if you just don't look at it, it doesn't
Mhm.
exist. And so you don't look at it and it gets
Mhm.
worse and worse and worse. And you're
Mhm.
like, by the time you do address it, because now it's such a problem,
Mhm.
it's so overwhelming.
Mhm.
And that's where I totally agree. Don't wait too long to talk to
Mm-mm.
somebody about
Mhm.
your personal situation with finances and stuff like that, whether it's Michelle or
Just somebody you trust that
somebody
really
you
knows
trust
how
that
to help you work out of it.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Don't
So,
be embarrassed.
yeah.
I mean, golly, if you've lived life at all, if you're an adult for a couple of years, it's going to happen.
Yeah,
So
that's
reach
true.
out to somebody.
It's true. Well, if you are in that position, or if you're just curious what your options are for a second position home equity loan, be sure and reach out to Michelle. She would love to help you out.
Mhm.
Also, be sure and give this video a thumbs up, share it with a friend, leave a comment down below, subscribe to our channel, and we will catch you guys on the next episode of Unlocking Doors.